Next up online, we have anchored in Stewardship, the Alaska SeaLife Center Marine Mission. We're really happy to have them this year and being able to partner with them. So we have Halley Werner, who's the animal care specialist, and Gabby Brown, education specialist with the SeaLife Center with us. Welcome, Halley and Gabby.
Perfect. All right. Sorry about that delay. So, like I said, Gabby and I are here just to chat about the SeaLife Center and talk about some of the things we have to offer and how we help to kind of fulfill the wonderful theme you guys have this year of sustainability and stewardship. So I'd first like to share the Alaska SeaLife Center's mission statement. We are the only public aquarium and marine research facility in Alaska. We also have a rehabilitation facility attached to the aquarium. And our mission is to generate and share scientific knowledge to promote understanding and stewardship of Alaska's marine ecosystems. So, of course, we're so excited. This is about stewardship. That is literally our mission.
Yeah, so like Hallie just said, it is our mission to generate and share this knowledge. And what really ties together all of the different things that Hallie just mentioned that we do here is this pursuit of knowledge and attempt to share it. And so we do that through a few different ways, including education and community outreach, working with the people around us, and research that we do. Alaska ecosystems are severely understudied, and we are one of the fastest changing ecosystems in the world with climate change. And so really trying to understand that. And then our wildlife response and rehabilitation work that we do all works to, again, support this attempt to share sustainability knowledge and stewardship, because there's a lot going on in the world right now, and people only have the capacity to care about so much. And so we really tend to care about what we know and what we have connections to. And so we really want to work to help share this knowledge and help people build these connections to our ecosystems, to care more about that, but also to hopefully help that grow to whatever ecosystems are around them, whatever land is around them, because it is all interconnected, and people caring about and wanting to do conservation work and be stewards of the land where they are is also going to help our people and our ecosystems as well. And so, yeah, next slide. And to start, want to realize that when we're talking about knowledge, we're not just talking about Western science knowledge. We're talking about all forms of knowledge. There is a growing understanding and push within, I think, a lot of conservation work and a lot of research to really honor and partner with Indigenous peoples, in our case, the Alaskan Native peoples. And that is, again, to honor this knowledge, because Indigenous peoples have been working with this land for thousands of years. They know these ecosystems in ways that Western science will never be able to replicate. And there's a lot of power in being able to work together to share this knowledge, but also to do it in a respectful way in which we're sharing and not just taking knowledge from different groups, and which has traditionally been done, and unfortunately in a lot of research and conservation work, where knowledge has been taken and often only even really utilized if it can be forced into a Western mindset. And so really trying to honor it and work with the people and build these relationships so that we're working together to create this knowledge base that is helpful and sustainable for everyone and can really help push our conservation efforts forwards. And one of the ways in which we're doing this is through the Coral Network, which what Robin just mentioned, the Community Organized Restoration and Learning Network, where we're working with many different organizations throughout the region to help co-create information and knowledge that is relevant to the people who are here. And when we're talking about knowledge, we're also wanting to include locals knowledge. So we're talking about fishers and forestry workers and people who have been here for a while and know this land, again, in ways that just scientists coming into an area can't understand. And so really trying to combine all these different knowledge sources and honor them all individually and hopefully bring them together to help create a more thorough and dynamic understanding of these ecosystems. And one of the ways in which we're attempting to do this and share it with the public is through our audio tour. And so within our public aquarium, you can go and follow along throughout the aquarium and hear not only from our experts and our staff, but also from Alaskan Native knowledge holders and locals who are in the industry, and learn about our various ecosystems and the different knowledge that everyone here has to offer. Right. And so with our education and outreach that we do, we have, again, a lot going on here, but we have our public aquarium, which Halley mentioned, that houses all Alaskan animals, most of which are from our region. So they can be found in this ecosystem. So here throughout Prince William Sound. And this is a place where thousands of people from all over the world every year are able to come and learn about and start to draw these connections to our beautiful and super dynamic ecosystems that many people really never get the chance to explore and understand. And so it really helps expose people to just how much life we have here and how dynamic it all is. And then we also work with many different school groups and do distance learning as well. And so with the outreach that we do, we're going to many different communities. We've been to over 100 communities throughout Alaska. We send staff out. And again, we're trying to build those relationships. And so we're trying to help understand this and share knowledge, not just take from communities, but also share the knowledge that we have and build these relationships to further our work and hopefully help start to build these partnerships and interact with many different people. And we also do nocturne groups where schools from mostly all over the state will come, and that's what's pictured here is them. They come and get to learn about some of our different animals in Alaska and some of our different ecosystems and spend the night here at the aquarium. It's just a fun way, again, to engage the next generation of stewards. And our distance learning is a unique opportunity where it allows people from all over the world to be able to learn about what we have going on here. And so they can take programs as far as Australia and Korea. And we've had people from all over the world then get to start to learn about, again, these areas and animals that they may never in their life get a chance to actually visit and be exposed to. So it's just helping kind of make our world feel a little bit smaller and more interconnected. And all of the departments at the center, for the most part, offer internships, which again is a really great way to engage the next generation of folks and realize that people can come from any background and get involved in conservation work and sustainability work. And all this is to help inspire the next generation of stewards that we're having and hopefully help bring everyone together for this mission. And so for our research, again, I mentioned that a lot of Alaska's animals and ecosystems are severely understudied. So a lot of the research that we do is just trying to help develop a baseline of knowledge because it's hard to conserve something you don't know about. And so we've partnered with many different people and organizations throughout the years, and one of which is Dr. Marcus Horning, who studies Pacific sleeper sharks. So we first partnered with him just to help understand this species, because it's this very cryptic species of shark that live pretty deep in the water. We knew they existed. We didn't really know much about them. And so it was really trying to understand this animal. But since the start of that project, it's now shifted to understanding that they kind of consume animals throughout the trophic levels, and then they're consumed by like orcas. So they are a really interesting connection between kind of what a lot of times we try to think of as separate ecosystems kind of in separate levels, but even though it is all interconnected. And so there's now trying to understand them because they think they could be a really important sentinel species. So essentially similar to an indicator species where, again, they're connecting our food web, big connections in our food web. And so the idea is to hopefully be able to study them, and they could actually indicate changes within their populations, could indicate that there are bigger changes happening in the ecosystem. So hopefully we can start to monitor that and respond before these changes are so big that we're noticing changes throughout the different ecosystems. And then for our aviary team and our seabird research, we have many different projects that have happened, but we have a couple really interesting flocks here at the center that are a part of these studies, one of which is our common murre flock. And so back in 2015, after the heat wave, we saw a $4 million common murre die-off. It was about half of Alaska's common murre population. And these are really important animals that, again, are connecting our different levels in the ocean because they dive to about 700 feet deep. They can go really deep and are feeding on animals down there. And it, again, is one of these connections that we're seeing. And their populations haven't recovered well since that die-off. And so we believe it's due to food sources, but we're really trying to understand kind of what toxins might have been present in their food source and at what levels were those toxins present that they either stopped eating the fish or the toxins started making the wild population sick. So again, really attempting to just understand these species that don't have a huge amount of data on them to start with. And then our eider flocks that we have stellars and spectacled eider flocks, that their wild populations we have seen a pretty drastic decrease in. And the stellars eider specifically, they have one nesting population here in Alaska that is really diminished. And there are a couple others in the world, but our researchers went out and collected eggs in hopes to prevent that population from fully dying off, kind of with the end goal of being able to re-release these chicks. But from having them in our captivity and all, we learned that the chicks are super susceptible to changes in salinity, and their habitat, where they're typically are nesting, is becoming saltier. And so we haven't been able to release any so far, but we've been able to learn that these changes in their ecosystems are probably playing a really big role in their populations not recovering and possibly continuing to die off. And so we're able to learn a lot, about these different animals from having them in our care. And again, being able to just contribute knowledge to like a broader database and hopefully share this with people to help get conservation work passed. And then again, our aquariums department is also doing an interesting work with what's called the SAFE program. It's Saving Animals from Extinction. And so Pycnopodia, the sunflower sea stars, saw a 94% global decline in their populations around 2013, and that was from sea star wasting disease. And this species has a native range from the Aleutians all the way down to Baja California, Mexico. And so we noticed a latitudinal difference, and so the populations further south are nearly extinct throughout California and all. It's very, very rare to ever be able to find them. But up here, our populations weren't as impacted, and the ones that were, we've seen a gradual recovery of them as well. And so trying to understand what is really impacting these animals and what is kind of causing this disease and why this variation that we're seeing exists. And then within this program, stakeholders created a roadmap to recovery, which includes a bunch of aquariums, indigenous peoples, and government organizations that have come together and have started this conversation on how do we save these animals, because they are super important keystone species for their ecosystems throughout their entire range. And here we've provided gametes from our sunflower sea stars to other zoos and aquariums with the hopes to eventually be able to re-release them. Because it's really interesting, we have the largest collection of wild sunflower sea stars in the world, which means they're really genetically diverse. So again, if we're able to release these animals back into the wild, it's really important to have a genetically diverse population that can withstand changes. And then our Chiswell research is our longest going research project at the center. The Western population of Steller sea lions is on 80% decline from the 80s to the early 2000s. The population had stabilized and was just kind of barely starting to recover when we saw another die-off in 2015 after the heat wave again. So it's interesting, we have data samples of their scat samples and of what they've been eating from before and after this heat wave. And so we've been able to see how their diet has changed since the heat wave and how that might be playing a role in their populations. So we're continuing to monitor that population and try to understand again what is happening in our wild ecosystems here. So again, all this research that we're doing and more is to help promote just understanding. And again, you can't protect something you don't know about. And so we're just trying to build our knowledge bases and be able to share that with our communities and with people.
All right, so I'm mainly going to talk about our wildlife response team and kind of the information that we can gain from these animals that are coming in, either for help to recover and be released, or even dead animals that are reported to us. We can still gain a lot of knowledge from them. So a little bit of background about the Alaska SeaLife Center's Wildlife Response Department. We are the only marine mammal rehabilitation center in the state of Alaska. We primarily respond to harbor seal pups. So right now we're coming into harbor seal pupping season. We anticipate being very busy with lots of little baby harbor seals that have lost their moms for one reason or another, or sick or injured, needing help to recover, and then with the hope of releasing. Year round, we can also get sea otter pups, which are quite a bit different. They require 24-hour care and unfortunately can't be released due to the amount of care that they require from people. They become very attached to people and reliant on humans for their care. We also receive a number of marine birds throughout the year. We, as a service to our community, help to triage the raptors. So we do get quite a few bald eagles every year that need help. We'll send them up to Anchorage at Bird TLC. You can see in the photo, I think we have a fulmar from a few years back. We get quite a few of these that come in on boats that were attracted to the lights, end up on deck, get very disoriented. So we try to help them out, get them back on their feet and back out in the wild. And sometimes we get some other less common, some may say more exciting marine mammals, like that baby beluga pictured on the bottom right there. So we have our hands full with live animals, but the majority of the reports we get from our hotline are actually carcasses. So we do also play a pretty big role in carcass response. You can see pictured here, we have a dead whale that was on shore, and the SeaLife Center was able to send some of our veterinary and wildlife response team to help collect samples and learn a little bit about this whale and why it may have died. All right, so another big part of what we do that doesn't involve just hanging out with cute fuzzy animals is training professionals. So we do have an oiled wildlife response team at the Alaska SeaLife Center, and part of that is a training base for HAZWOPER. So we have helped to train many different animal care employees of different aquariums around the country and even outside of the country. There's some folks over in Africa that are trained on HAZWOPER, and this just helps us create a network where if there were oil spill, we could reach out to this network for more help, because as you know, there are limited people in the state of Alaska, and when an oil spill hits, you need all boots on the ground. So we're doing our best to help prepare for any sort of oil spill disaster by helping to train others in our field of animal care. Another training that we offer here at the SeaLife Center, we try to do it every year. And for the past 3 years, we have been successful in putting off what we call our Wildlife Response Boot Camp. So what that is we invite individuals from kind of the more remote communities, and we help train these individuals to learn how to do things like observe an animal that's been reported, capture and handling of samples from carcasses and shipping those samples off, collecting data that we can then later report in the national database. So this is super helpful for those more remote communities, like I was saying, that we have some boots on the ground in those areas that we can rely on to help us gather all this information or help us collect an animal in need to send it then to the SeaLife Center for help. And so far we have been able to host folks from Kodiak and from Seldovia and from, I want to say, Valdez or Cordova. I'm sorry, I'm blanking. But there, we have hosted a group of folks from a community in Prince William Sound. Another part of wildlife response is stewardship itself. So we do operate a 24-hour hotline. I'm kicking myself for not putting the number on here, but it is included on our final slide. And on that hotline, people can call us anytime, day or night, and report an animal that they feel like is in distress, or maybe they found a dead animal on the beach. And a lot of times those phone calls end up just being a little bit of public education. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the sea lions out there thermal regulating, like one flipper up in the air. And a lot of people find that to be a very alarming activity that they don't fully realize is just normal behavior for these animals. So we're able to educate people on the phone, maybe about normal activities, maybe about some of the diseases that have been found in a certain population or animal species that they're calling about. And it's just really a really good way for us to interact with the community and try to have a positive outcome no matter what they're calling about. We also have a pretty large online presence thanks to our media team that does have a global reach. As you can imagine, the animals that do come in live for care tend to be very popular with everyone out there. They're so adorable, and who doesn't love a good underdog story? You get this poor seal in that's on death's doorstep, and we are somehow able to help it recover and release it. It's just so exciting to be able to share those stories and help inspire everyone out there to care for these animals and for the ecosystem. We also do try to offer some public releases each year when we do have those harbor seals ready to go back home. If it's, we try to bring them back close to where they came from and involve the communities. So we'll travel over to King Salmon in Bristol Bay and do a school program after the release and invite the kids to the release. So that's just a really fun way, again, to involve the community and get them excited about the animals, about the ecosystem, but also help build a connection with them. Like Gabby was saying, we want to involve all the Native communities as much as possible too, and try to get a little bit of an understanding of each other. So everyone likes some statistics. I'm going to do my one statistic slide. So since our opening in 1998, we have had 214 live harbor seals admitted from all over the state, but really that includes the southwest, south central, and southeast areas of Alaska. And with my little graph here color-coded to match the map, you can see that the majority of those seals do come from South Central. about 64%. And a good chunk of that actually comes from Prince William Sound. So that's pretty cool that we are able to have an impact on a good chunk of the state, but also it just helps us feel really connected as we're part of the Prince William Sound Symposium here. Everything coming from your area is just contributing to our knowledge and helping us understand the ecosystem so we can do our best to care for it. So as I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, each response that we have does contribute to science in some way or another. So the live animals come in, we are doing regular vet exams on them, which includes blood draws to make sure that they're healthy. We can bank some of that blood for later research projects. We're taking measurements of their bodies. So we are seeing maybe there's a trend, maybe the seals are starting to be born smaller or bigger. So we can use that information. And the live animals, the ones that we're able to release, sometimes we're actually able to put satellite tags on them too, so we can track their movements, gain a whole bunch more information there, like where are they going? Is this indicative of where their food source is or what's driving them to be there? So yes, it creates a ton more questions, but then there's going to be someone out there who wants to answer all those questions. So the live animals definitely provide us with a lot of information, and they also help us to create that sense of empathy within the public. Like I said, they're cute. People love them. So getting them interested in and attached to a specific animal, and then for them to see on social media that that animal was released back to the population really just draws them in and makes them want to help. Dead animals, we get so many more samples. I mean, you could take a sample of literally every single part of a dead animal and someone will probably use it at some point. So these samples help with disease surveillance. We're able to provide tissue samples for current research. If someone has a call out for, like whale stomachs, we can help get them their whale stomachs. And then also for future research, samples can be banked and a future research project can reach out and use samples for projects. And it looks like we're running a little low on time. I'm going to try to rush through this last slide. I will admit it's very loaded, but the takeaway that I have here is I see wildlife response as an open window to the ecosystem. And it also can be really indicative of the future of human health. So there are endless things that we can learn from wildlife response. I'm just going to touch on these. We have harmful algal blooms. So some people might relate more to the phrase red tide. All those sea lions down in California that are coming up with neurological symptoms, they're being affected by a harmful algal bloom. Paralytic shellfish poisoning is another harmful algal bloom that affects people directly. UME stands for unusual mortality event. So every so often there will be a large die-off of a specific species, and then an unusual mortality event might be declared, which then allows for more governmental funding to research why these animals are dying. Is it a human interaction cause? Is it from boat strikes? Is it from disease? Is it from environmental changes like harmful algal blooms? So we can learn a lot from horrible events. The MER die-off, which Gabby has already brought up, that's a very relatable, as many of us have been here throughout that time and experienced all those MERS dying off. We can, through the calls that come into us, we can monitor, is there an increase of animals out of habitat? For example, over the last few years, we've had walrus that have been very out of habitat. One of those in Valdez, one over in Kachemak Bay. I think another one might have been in Kodiak. So they should be much farther north. So again, they're an indication of what's happening out there. The sea ice is melting. The walrus are having to move. they're having a harder time finding food, they're getting confused, and we're getting animals outside of their normal habitat. We also see a lot of entanglement. So how can we help the animals? And by helping the fishermen, perhaps, anyone out there fishing, you always hear people pick up your line. But the more we talk about it, the more people are going to want to help and maybe go do a beach cleanup. And then zoonotic diseases. Everyone's probably by now heard of highly pathogenic avian influenza. That's a big deal right now. So we're screening all the animals that come in for HPAI and other zoonotic diseases. And so we're just helping to add to that database of how bad is it out there, how many animals are actually affected, and what does that mean for the human population, because we can get these diseases too. So again, that was a really loaded slide. I'm sorry I had to rush through it, but it just goes to show there's endless information out there for us to learn. And through research projects, through Wildlife Response, we're just trying to learn as much as we can while helping the animals that need help and educating the public so that they want to help too. So this is our final slide. We just have a couple of little business cards here. I don't know if you're able to scan that QR code or if it's too pixelated on the screen, but that will bring you to our website that kind of talks you through what to do if you find a injured marine animal and gives a little information. And then we have some info if anyone wants to contact the education department, is interested in nocturnes or education programs or anything like that.
All right. Thank you, Gabby. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One thing that makes Prince William Sound special to me is to see sea otters, and I saw mountain goats and saw kittiwakes, and without those, that abundant wildlife, it's just not the same place. So this research and research in general to help us understand what's going on with these populations and how to help them out is, I think, critically important. So thank you for doing that work.